Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Whom It May Concerns Hood Professionals podcast, where we talk it out to work it out. As always, I'm your host, AP, and I am excited to be back here. We have made it through the first month of 2022. Hopefully, you all have had some goals that you set, and I always think that it's just wonderful to think about how far you've come should you have remained consistent with the goal. So to know that we go from formulating a thought, so it's just like, again, it's just like planting a seed. You plant the seed by you think it, and then you speak it, you believe it, and then you act upon it. And to see our goals manifesting before our eyes, the way that we have manifested people into our lives that we may have never even known had we not began this particular journey towards reaching our goals. Or this is someone we say, you know what, it is my goal to meet and connect with this person and to make some things happen. And the fact that you've been diligent and consistent in making that a reality, I just really want to say how proud I am of us for sticking to what we set out to do, because it is hard to keep your word. So for those of you out there who are keeping that promise to yourself, I salute you. I'm so proud of you. I really hope that you're taking time to celebrate those victories. No matter how big or small they are important. Um, Always know that the things that you do to elevate and progress yourself forward and to just create a lifestyle that is what you want, celebrate that. I commend you for that. And I just want to let you know, I see you. I see you. Well, let's get into today's topic. Well, I shouldn't even say today's topic. Let's get into the topic for the month. And this topic is something that's very near and dear to me. It's work-life balance, how and why we show up. And I don't know if you all will see that there is a theme where I'm really trying to connect more so of the professional and the personal, because our professional does take up a significant amount of our life. Even if you may be someone who has a full-time job, but your job may be a little bit more lax than others, so you can kind of like, you know what I mean, effortlessly swing in and out of both. And then you might have one of those jobs where you have a lot of pressure on you, and sometimes the lines are so blurred you never really know when you're working and when you're not working. And so I definitely want to start having more of those type of conversations for you all and with you all, so that I can get you more engaged in the conversation and get you more invested in wanting to participate in this podcast, because this definitely isn't just about me talking. Like, if you definitely want to be a guest or come on, or if you know someone that may have some expertise in certain backgrounds, especially dealing with mental health or conflict resolution, or counseling, or strategic planning when it comes to like employees or recruitment, definitely feel free to contact me via the email address, which should be located on all of my social media platforms. We do have a To Whom It May Concerns Hood Professionals Instagram page, so make sure you follow, please, and make sure you share. Okay. And then we also do have a blog podcast. Look at us. Hey, we branch it out. Hey, keep up. Hey. So we have a blog entitled To Whom It May Concern hoodpros.wordpress.com. Definitely go over, follow, and subscribe to the blog. Every Wednesday we're putting out content. So every single Wednesday there is a blog post there. So we're up to like what, our fourth or fifth blog? If not the fifth, then this Wednesday will be the fifth one. So as you can see, there's a lot of consistency going on with the blog, with the podcast. We are not playing about taking 2022 over. Like, this is the year of consistency. This is the year of going full throttle. This is the year of we ain't taking no no's, and every loss is a lesson. Okay? Every L is a what? Lesson learned. I know y'all like that. I know y'all like that. That's the motto. So, once again, we're getting back on topic with work-life balance, and it's about how and why we show up. So, recently, I was given the opportunity to be a part of a webinar for the organization that I work with. And so I was able to be a part of a webinar with my current job place, and we were talking about what does diversity, inclusion, and equity look like in the workplace. And so I'm always curious to those type of things because sometimes I feel like there are a sector of people who look at these types of topics or subjects from the perception of their bubble. And when you have these breakout sessions and you hear people talk about their perception of what diversity, inclusion, and equity looks like, it's very disheartening because it's very surface. It's very surface, and it just makes you be like, why am I on this call? Why am I taking out my time to engage in this when they don't have a clue as to what it truly means? And then sometimes I feel like people take the easy way out and they want to revert it to like children or elderly people or some type of medical disability, and I hate that because I feel like that's the easy way out. Let's really look at the issue as it pertains to us, as it pertains to adults who don't necessarily have a medical disability, who um we aren't children, and we are in a time frame where, well, an age group where we're not considered a senior citizen. Like, let's really see this as a self practice in real time. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily want to do that because it means that there are a lot of prejudices that they practice which are going to be exposed. But it's like, only if you want to hold on to something should you ever be worried about being perceived as being away. Because if you're actively seeking to shed some things that you know are wrong, then I feel like it's brave of you, and you should be more than willing to step forward and say, hey, I would like to carry on the conversation. Here are some real life experiences that I've been a part of, and I know that I was wrong, but I might not necessarily know in what capacity. How do I just systematically change the way I've been my entire life? And I can get with that rather than deflecting to a certain sector of marginalized persons or easier personnel to talk about than to talk about things that are in real time, right? So two of the questions that come for me about diversity, inclusion, and equity and what that looks like in the workplace is, do we practice these values also within our home life? And I say that to say, for the person who may be the only female in a household full of males, it's the father and, let's say, two sons or three sons or what have you. How is she treating that household could also make the difference in how she shows up at work. If she's treated like a queen, where her, like, her word is gold, and what she says goes, she could be a diva at work. She could be perceived as a diva at work. And it may not necessarily be her intent to be, quote unquote, a diva. However, at home, she's treated in such a manner that it's become now just an expectation of everybody else is going to treat me the same way. Or she could be treated in a way where she's just, I'm there to cook and clean and to iron and to take care of and to make the appointments and this, that, and other. So when she comes to work, she's coming in, very more so assertive. Like, she ain't taking no crap, she ain't taking nothing. And other people around them be like, man, she's super aggressive. But it could very well be that she's not seen or necessarily valued at home. And I also want to say same thing for men. And I'll actually give an example and just saying vice versa. A male who's in a household full of women and he's treated as just Mr. Fix It. He's not necessarily seen as this person, well, dad needs his own time, or the husband needs his own time, or John needs his own time. So at work, John might be the teammate who tends to let everybody else do stuff. And, he kind of like sits in the fray because at home, he's Superman. He has to take care of everything. And coming to work is pretty much like his escape from having to be the most responsible person in the household, right? So in looking at that, and maybe that doesn't necessarily look like diverse, but I think I think it does for me. It could possibly look like that in the household and at work, where sometimes we're trading one for the other, or sometimes we're showing up in both places, how we're being treated in one. So if you're being shown all this respect at work and you're feared, you may be taking that same energy into your household where your family might not necessarily like you. They may very well respect you and revere you, but they don't like you. You're hard to love. You're hard to like because you're so busy trying to demand or make sure that you get that respect that you're missing a part of. You need real life connections with people so that when you're down, you have people there who genuinely want to be there because they care about you. To be cared for by someone who has unconditional love to you, as opposed to someone it's their job to do so or they feel obligated, two totally different ends of the spectrum. So this is how I'm talking about, like, how are we showing up and why are we showing up? And hopefully to give everyone some insight on maybe why some of your coworkers are showing up in the manner that they do. And not necessarily saying that we have to take shit off of people, because we never do. And I don't subscribe to that. I don't. So I definitely don't want you thinking that this is what that is. But I just remember how I said for me on the first episode for this year, I said that I definitely want to practice more discipline when it comes to my emotions as far as my responses in professional and personal settings. This is me really practicing that and really just seeing, okay, people are showing up for a myriad of reasons, like a myriad of reasons that people show up in the manner that they do. And while I may not necessarily always understand every single thing, there are times where I can extend people some grace and not internalize it and make it, and make it something, make it a matter, make it personal. Because aren't we all entitled to some days where we just don't feel our best? But at the same time, we, even on that end, we have a responsibility not to just spew what's going on inside of us on other people. And if we really need a moment to be like, you know what, I need a moment, let me step off, or do that. Because remember, I would much rather you take the time out to bring it back center than to just let it, spew all over the place. And then, my God, it's a toxic spill and it takes a long time to clean it up. Just think about Japan. They still haven't got all that biochemical hazardous stuff up. So you don't want to be that. You don't want to be this beautiful island, but the majority of you is covered in toxic waste from a moment that you had, and you haven't been able to clean that mess up, right? Because we also had that discussion of, you can have that one time where you have that I went off at work experience, and honey, that's what you will always be remembered for. So you definitely want to, on both ends, give grace. Give grace to those when you're in a mood and you really just ain't up to shit that day. And also give grace on the other end when someone's in a mood and just know, okay, this person needs a moment. Take the time that you need, type of thing. So One question I was thinking about: do you believe that persons who have a reputation at work, whether good or bad, are projecting something that is absent from their home life? And again, this goes back to what I'm saying, like being overbearing or being rude or aggressive, power hungry, a pushover, super duper nice, flirtatious, or timid. I definitely believe that there are some things, and then sometimes it could also be a character flaw. There could be some things that we have taken over or brought over just in repetitive experiences in our social life, where we feel like we have to present this character or present this guard in order to be protected or accepted, right? So maybe someone who's super duper 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 nice is really just trying to stay off the radar of maybe being bullied because they've had experiences with that with growing up. Or maybe someone who's super aggressive, maybe they're trying to keep from being bullied. So it's like, I'm gonna stop you in your tracks before you can even get on your mark, get set. Before you even get on your mark. Okay? We just gonna nip that on the bud. I'm gonna come with this energy. So don't bring it here my way. Power hungry, maybe someone who has for a long time trying to fight for their position. They finally got into a place where they have that title, and it's just like, I wish somebody would. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's like a dog with a bone, especially, you have certain breeds of dogs that you don't reach your hand in when they eating their food. I would like to think it's all type of breeds of dogs, but you definitely have some dogs where you just, if they're eating, you cannot put your hand down by their bowl because they become very territorial. It's like, this is mine. And they feel like you're trying to take something away from them when really you could just be moving the bowl over to put something else in there to add over to it. And it's the same way where you have some people who are very power hungry and they're too afraid to share anything because they feel very connected to that, because this is the one thing that they have in their life that they feel like they have complete and utter control over. And then those persons who are flirtatious, it could be that ugly duckling syndrome, or it could be an insecurity where maybe they feel like that's all that they have. So again, I personally do believe that there people who have certain types of reputations, and again, good or bad. And I do think that it could be something absent from their home life, and not even necessarily their present one, but it could be, home life before, again, growing up. And sometimes if we don't work through those things and heal through those things, we continue to carry that on because for so long that's all that we've known. So we've allowed it to, like, to attach to us. And rather than us working through those things and being like, what, I'm not these things, I'm not the opinions of others. Sometimes it's just super duper hard, depending on what environment you come from, because sometimes that environment isn't necessarily your community, but it's your family, right? It's your mom, it's your dad, it's your siblings, it's your aunts, it's your grandmother. So it's hard to get away from those type of engagements when it's so close to you, and you're conditioned that you have to respect, and you know what I mean, and be a participant in those type of relationships. It could be very difficult. So next, how do we balance work life to our personal life? Like, when work is at least 40 hours a week. Oh my gosh, I say this all the time to people, like, yo, we spend too much time at work to be unhappy. Like, thank God, there are some things that came out of this pandemic, this panorama, that I am just so appreciative of. I'm always one of those people that I love flexibility in a job. Honey, I'll take flexibility over benefits. You understand? Because I feel like I'm making the money. I'll I'll pay for the you know what I mean, the high payment I need to pay for. I'll get on the payment plan if need be, if I gotta go to the doctor, what have you not. It is what it is. but it's more so the freedom of being able to move how I need to move and not being micromanaged, not feeling like I'm being spied upon, not feeling like I'm being given busy work because somebody else feels like if at any single moment throughout the day I'm not doing X, Y, and Z, somehow I'm squandering company time, which I think is crazy because it's like, if I'm an efficient person, is it my fault that I'm able to do the job well in way less time than 8 hours? But that's the story for another podcast. Okay, that's a story for another podcast because we're definitely gonna delve into stuff like that because I feel like Henry Ford. If you want to know, Henry Ford is the one who came up with the 8 hour day, 40-hour work week. Him. And if we could dig him up and whoop his ass, I would. But I digress. So, how do we balance work life to our personal life when work is at least 40 hours a week? Is it feasible for us to think that there can be a true separation when we are constantly dealing with people? So at work, we got to deal with people, and at home, we got to deal with people. And when I say, is it feasible to think that there's a true separation, can we truly get away from the whole diversity, inclusion, and equity thing? Because if we want these things practiced at work, how do we then come home and then want to separate everything into like gender roles or even ageism, right? How do we practice balance? How do we practice inclusion? How do we practice equity in both spaces so that then it becomes like a seamless transition? I think it's very difficult for persons to show up in a professional environment in a way where they are thoughtful and considerate of others because they don't necessarily have to be there at home, right? Or because they feel like that's only reserved on their personal time. I don't come to work. Like I used to tell people, I don't come to work to make friends. I come to work to do a job and get money. But at the same time, and it's still true, and it's still very much so true, but at the same time you're interacting with people, and it's only natural that you make certain connections. Not saying you're going to make a connection with everybody, because that's not realistic, because you're not. And I don't necessarily think that you're supposed to. However, you're going to have certain connections. And so with that, I think it's important that we are open-minded, that we are engaged, that we are inclusive, because it matters how you treat your family, how you treat your friends, even how you treat strangers on, you know what I mean? And that's still in your personal time. It's conducive to when you go into work, because you're going to see people who favor or look like or who are similar to people that you work with. And it's nice being able to be open-minded enough and to be willing to learn some things enough that you can make those connections, and that you can teach people in your household, children, spouse, mom, dad, whoever, a little bit of something, so that everyone can be more aware, be it culturally, be it religiously, be it spiritually, whatever the case may be. And it begins to be a cycle of something that we can teach. EDI, equity, diversity, and inclusion, is teachable. It is so teachable. It only takes one or two of us within a household or within a department to be aware, to be accepting, to recognize, and not be afraid to be vocal and say, hey, there are some things that are missing here, that if we would implement, we could see a vast difference in productivity within this department, within this home. Do you know that even in the way that you love in your personal relationships, if you are more inclusive in their feelings and the things that in their interests, right? And the things that they take a liking to, you change the trajectory, you change the frequency and the energy of that relationship. It grows in a way that is more mutually respectful. And it's the same way when you're in a workplace. When you value, even as a manager, when you value your employees, they take more of an ownership of what it is that they do with their position. And they take more pride in that, in making sure that they deliver to the best of their ability, because they know that who they are, not just what they do, but who they are is value and it's meaningful, and it brings an additional leverage to the department and to the team as a whole. People show up when they feel included. People show up when they feel valued. People show up when they feel like they have a shot at progression. And that is what we want, be it personal, be it professional. We want those same things for one another. So I feel like if we were to practice both, if we were to practice in both settings, we would see a whole lot more healthier and more whole people within our community, within our workspaces. When people are properly loved, because that's really what it comes down to. I mean, but like, well, I don't love my coworkers. But an act of kindness, love doesn't always have to be this romantic, intimate thing. It really doesn't. Kindness is love. Listening is love. Giving is love. Being accountable is love. Being dependable is love. Because those things trigger positive reactions from others. Child, we going there. We're going there. We're there. We are there. So again, the next thing was, are we setting ourselves up for failure if our personal life isn't diversified to prepare us for a professional environment? And I do truly believe that. I truly believe that as a Black female, sometimes it can be difficult going into predominantly white spaces and being the only Black personnel there, because it's just like sometimes it can just be uncomfortable because it's not diversified. And even not even necessarily being that there's not another Black person there, but there's not someone else there who is open to being more inclusive. And relating to me is not hip hop. Okay? Relating to me is not slang. Okay? Relating to me is not perpetuating the stereotypicalness that you see of Black women in the media. O effing K. Okay? I really want more people to understand that you could just really be yourself and just be a cool ass person, be an authentic ass person, be a real ass person, and get along with Black people. Okay? You don't need to put on in order to be inclusive, in order to be diversified. You just need to be a respectable human being. Don't be a backstabber. Don't be a negative Nancy. Don't be a freaking tattletale about everything. Because guess what? 9 times out of 10, you don't have the whole facts to be going back and running your flipping mouth. Period. You really don't. So a lot of times it's just like, give the same consideration as you want somebody to give to you. Right? And if something is not harming you or the company as a whole, shut up. Like, who cares? Because 9 times out of 10, you're not doing everything exactly by the book yourself. So just chill out and mind your business and go on about your merry little way. Okay? Okay. So I really want you all to think about some factors that you believe could generate a better mindset of how we work and interact with our peers. And how do we successfully turn off one for the other? As far as like, does personal life stop because we are at work? Which I say no, it doesn't. But then some people might be like, well, then If your personal life doesn't stop because you at work, then just because you off work and work life calls, you should be available to participate in that. And I feel like there's a fine line with that, because some companies will take advantage of that and run. You answer the phone one time, they're going to expect you to answer the phone every single time. Well, like that commercial, give it to Mikey, he'll eat anything. Call AP, she always answers. And it's not fair, because I don't know about y'all, but when I'm off work, I don't necessarily want to use my brain like that, right? And that's really why I want to find a very capable husband, because I just want to be a complete airhead when I'm at home. And that's it. That's all. That's my truth. That's my truth. It's mine. It's mine. It's mine. It is what it is. So no, I'm not one of those people that really likes to answer phone calls or emails. It's got to be extremely difficult. Because let me tell you something. My friends and my sister bother me enough with Excel and professional questions as it is. So yeah, don't call me on my off day. But I definitely would like to, again, you all just have these conversations. I mean, hell, if you got to have them with yourself, or even have them with, some of your coworkers, really think about, does your job practice inclusion, equity and diversity within the workplace? What does it look like? I remember one girl was saying that, she's super high energy, she has a lot of energy or whatnot, and one of her managers was like, uh, referred to her as a crackhead. Things like that. Even when you think you're being funny, sometimes it's just inappropriate. I don't think that's a very smart thing to say. I think you got to have a certain type of relationship in order to say certain things like that, right? And it's like so many other words that you can use to describe someone who you feel like is super hyper. You get what I'm saying? Like, so it's just about being aware. And I know some people like to um relate awareness to, like, again, here we go, some type of medical disability or some type of medical issue, and it's like, or ailment, and it's like, no, we also have to be socially aware of ourselves when we are at work and also when we're at home. Well, that's my spiel. I truly hope that you have enjoyed this episode. As always, I hope that you are setting goals, you are going after them, you are being consistent, you are reflecting, you are taking time to celebrate those milestones, and you're also taking time to just regroup. It's also important to just not do anything at all, because that too is yoga. Did you know sleeping is also a form of yoga? Get into it. Again, this is your girl AP, Whom It May Concern Hood Professionals podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you same time, March 1st. Peace.